Hello, everybody.
Is everything still here? I think the internet might have fucking imploded. Left internet might have imploded in our absence. Holy shit, dude. I feel like every 24 hours is a new whirlwind of shit to cover in this, left media world. Fuck. Like I don't even know where to begin. It's been quite a shit show for the past, I don't know, ever.
Oh yeah, no, it's been absolutely insanity. I like to think of it as just a supernova of everything that we've kind of been documenting over the last year or so when it comes to these dramatic episodes going down between Jimmy, TYT, etc. This is the absolute climax of it all, and it's been insane to watch. I really never expected it to escalate to this point. Truly, it's been really crazy to see.
Yeah, it's like a train wreck. You don't want to watch, but you like hella can't take your eyes off of it. It's the self-immolation, yes, but then the just complete lack of any kind of self-awareness on top of that. I'm almost at a loss for words. I'm never at a loss for words. As many people in the comment section have noted over our time here as podcast hosts. But I almost don't even know what to say about this. It's that bad. It's that fucking cringy, the way that TYT has fallen apart. But there is some nuance to this kind of happening, right? This was all began as Jimmy addressed it on his show. Basically, Anna Kasparian sent him a direct message that was essentially meant to threaten the guy into shutting the fuck up about TYT. She was basically saying you made this inappropriate, sexually motivated joke about me at work while we were both at TYT. And, you apologize for it, but now everybody's going to know what kind of a scumbag you are. And it's kind of like, if a woman says that something happened like that, Gavin and I's policy here on the Vanguard is that we believe them. But it's also kind of like, even from Anna's own account, like Jimmy apologized for his actions. And it's kind of like, well, I don't agree that you should make a joke about what a woman's wearing. Certainly not her like underwear or whatever the fuck. We'll talk about why Anna and Cenk don't really have a hill to stand on when it comes to that kind of a complaint. But still, on principle, I do think those kinds of jokes, are inappropriate for work and all that kind of shit. But it's also like on the other side of it, it really comes off as like an obvious attempt to redirect people's attention away from the complete failures that are going on at TYT.
Yeah, and that was a really good introduction, Zach, because we obviously do want to make sure this is very nuanced. Obviously, myself and you are both males. We're not women. We haven't experienced a lot of the kind of harassment and degradation that does go on unchecked in workplaces across the country and across the world. That's an extremely real issue. And to be honest, from the jobs that I have had in my life, I can proudly say that I've never made any degrading comments about women. That's never even occurred to me to comment on a female coworker or a male coworker's dress or their makeup or any of that stuff. It's not something that I sign off on. It's not something that I condone. It's not appropriate behavior. And if that happened in any instance in the situation, then it is condemnable. Absolutely. I would 100% condemn it if that is what happened. However, we have to take a little bit of a look at the context here. And as you just mentioned, the folks at TYT don't really have much of a hill to stand on here. And also, let's keep in mind, this is all predicated by these slanderous statements that Anna Kasparian made towards journalist Aaron Mate just a week or so previously. Yeah, friend of the show, Aaron Mate. And the relevance of that is that, that kind of destroyed her credibility in a sense. It was a baseless allegation, a baseless smear. You might have wanted to consider that before you then go on to make an even graver accusation towards somebody else. And again, I don't know what happened in the situation. It's kind of a he said, she said situation, unfortunately. So there's not really much we can do. It's not like we were there. It's not like we know what happened. All we can really do is speculate. And given the context, in my opinion, given the timing, it really comes off like almost of a weaponization of this issue in an attempt to obfuscate from her completely embarrassing and, like I said, slanderous statements only a week or so beforehand. Maybe that's not the right way to look at this, but I can't help but see it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? So it's like really the accusation that's being made is that there was inappropriate jokes made by Jimmy Dore at work. Okay, I could find that something that's like, no, that doesn't surprise me at all. Like if you look at Jimmy's personality, like he's a comedian, he makes a lot of like, jokes like that when whatever. So that's totally plausible to me. However, I don't think there's any, discrepancy in the story where it says that, okay, he realized this was a mean joke. You know, he felt bad for it. He didn't want to humiliate Anna when he made it. It just seemed like something funny to say. He wrote her an apology note at the time. Okay, these are big critical things that somebody, that's what you do if you genuinely feel remorse for something. That's literally, go take a class on what you do if you fucked up your life. They'll be like, write apology notes to people and tell them you're sorry when you fuck up. That's literally the first thing you're supposed to do. That seems to be what he's done. So for her to sit on this for all these years and then try and, you know, essentially it seemed like she was trying to blackmail him by sending him that Twitter DM. Yeah. And you could see how long it had been. I don't know if we have the image saved, but you can see how long it had been since she DM'd him, because the message before that was extremely friendly. It was friendly. It was like back when they were on, watching you guys kick ass right now. It was back in 2016 when they were all on the Young Turks network. But yeah, let's go ahead and just read this. I'm sure you remember when you constantly made inappropriate comments about how sexy you found me at work, and even felt the need to ask me where I shop for jeans so you can buy a pair for your wife so she dresses better. That was followed by an apology card you wrote for me for the degrading harassment. So this is where she literally confirms what he says, that he apologized to her. I've been holding back, letting you run your mouth nonstop as if you're some good faith warrior for what's good in this world and for what's going to change, I think is what it says. Either way, she's basically trying to weaponize this accusation against her, being like, I've been sitting on this for when it's convenient for me to destroy you. Like, I'm not getting super strong feminist, I'm standing up for myself, I care about women's, you know, respectability in the workplace vibes from Anna Kasparian, right? Like, the thing about these kinds of principles is they have to be principles, right? Like, they have to be like, this is where I fucking am on all of this shit. And Gavin and I are there. We're the first ones to be like, no, it is inappropriate to make that kind of comment on like how a woman's dressing, you know, sexualization of your coworkers. It's not generally permissible unless you have a very specific relationship with them that is clearly outlined beforehand and it takes place outside of work. These are all like basic OSHA shit, guys. But that being said, you know, obviously people fuck up, and, you know, using this one example as a way of like, oh, now nobody's going to watch Jimmy Dore by pretending this is like he's sexually assaulted, or not pretending, but just, you know, trying to group him in with people who have, you know, committed really atrocious acts, right? So, and even like sexual harassment that goes well beyond like, oh, those, like maybe he did make a snide comment about like how her jeans look. I really don't know the context of what he would have said about like buying jeans for Steph. I imagine it was probably like comedically entertaining. Like, why would he degrade his wife to his coworker? Like, you know, why would he do that? That doesn't make any sense either. So I don't know. I just feel like you know, of course, like, and I feel like so many people on the left would be fine saying this. And I feel like the impulse is to be like, anybody who listens to Jimmy Dore and takes him credibly is like a simp. And it's like, no, I disagree with what he did. I think Aaron Mate disagrees with what he did. That's why he said he refers to it as a mean joke in the tweets we're going to get into today. But it's also like, I'm not about to like quit my whole fucking career because I made a joke that was inappropriate and I apologized for it fucking 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, like I said, all we can really do is speculate. You know, we weren't there. It's not really our place to say what did or did not happen. But I do think this was a pretty funny clip. I did want to share this. I don't know if you saw this, Zach, but this was the other night when Jimmy did this live show, and then it cuts to Max Blumenthal. Who have you seen this yet?
I watched a clip of it. Go ahead and play it.
Okay, this was pretty funny because I think a lot of people had a similar reaction to Max here.
Let's bring in Max now. Max, where would you like to take the conversation?
Yeah, this isn't really where I thought the conversation was going to go. I don't have the same history with these people, so. I have no problem with Anna Kasparian's style of dress.
Let's talk to them.
We don't have a dress code at the Gray Zone. People can show up however they want.
So yeah, I definitely related to Max there, kind of just being like, I don't know these people. If that happened, I'm what?
Yeah, here at the Vanguard, we don't give a shit how you show up to work. Gavin, you stop showing up in those goddamn fucking jackets of yours, those fucking bomber jackets. I swear to God.
Yeah, exactly. And again,
me with my eyes.
Maybe if this information had come to us in a different context, we would be receiving it differently. But again, it's predicated on 1 week ago, Anna Kasparian completely embarrassing herself with her own words, slandering another journalist and flipping him off live on air, calling him a foreign asset. So, I mean, her credibility is already gone. I think that needs to be said. And then a low key blackmail tweet or DM saying like, you better shut up or else, you know, I'm gonna leak this information on you or whatever. And then this happens, and God, I don't know. It's just a tricky situation because again, it really is kind of just a he said, she said situation with two people, you know, one of which who's already clearly destroyed her credibility. And you know, to be honest, it's not like Jimmy's had 100% track record of speaking the exact truth either. So, you know, we're kind of in a tough place as commentators on this one. It's really tough, and I don't want to come off as insensitive in any way. But I think that kind of is the gist of the situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel where you're coming from because obviously, like, you know, I don't support the joke that Jimmy made, but I also just think this is totally coming out of a way of obfuscating from their horrible reporting. And so the weaponization of like this kind of movement, I think that you could argue debases it a little bit, but you're right. As male commentators, you know, at work, we don't ever fucking experience this kind of shit. Yep. You know, we've both worked the menial kind of wage jobs, both together and separately, where this kind of shit happens a lot. And I can personally say that, like, when I was working at like a movie theater, like AMC, definitely saw women that had to deal with this kind of shit. You know, the pizza 100%. Joint that I worked at all throughout college, like they could not keep any female staff because there were so many fucks that worked there that were just, you know, pieces of shit, essentially. Yeah, that's a real problem that we have in this society. So I don't want to diminish that. What's causing a problem right here is the fact that this is clearly being used as a way to paper over just some really terrible journalism that they still have not run an official retraction on.
Yes.
And you know, for whatever reason, she's coming after Jimmy because he supports Aaron Mate a lot and has him on the show regularly, and as well as Max Blumenthal and Anya Parampol, who he's also recently done a stream with. Everybody basically at the Gray Zone. So yeah, it is a tough situation, but to be honest, like, do I think this is going to cancel Jimmy Dore? Fuck no. Do I think that the joke happened? I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that Anna's telling the truth at all. But I think that if the guy apologized for it and, you know, he doesn't repeat that behavior, what the fuck else do you want from him other than the fact that, like, okay, I could be like, Jimmy, you know, like,
exactly.
Okay, yeah, that was a bad joke.
Yeah. And speaking of bad jokes, Cenk and Anna are quite the savants. Quite the savants of terrible, problematic comedy and horrible, degrading statements about women and their bodies. Seemingly, Cenk and Anna themselves have been publicly profiting off of that exact activity for years. For seemingly the entire 2000s is littered with clips of them, exactly what I said, degrading women and their bodies for money.
This is the other reason why it's totally hollow.
Yeah, and before we get into some of these older clips from TYT, I just wanted to play a tad bit of their video the other day where they addressed this, just so we can see the tone they're taking on as far as their moralizing.
I'm interested in doing this show because I think what we do here is important. I want to get information to you guys. I want to collaborate with you guys. For me, that is the reason why I'm here. And I don't want to waste any more time with this nonsense regarding, like, ooh, is it TYT or Jimmy? Oh, Anna, I'm disappointed in you. Again, we love our audience. We want to fight together. But if any of what you see with Jimmy Dore is appealing to you, we're just not on the same team. And you don't even have to bother contacting me to tell me how disappointed you are. Cancel your membership. Like, we're literally telling you that right now.
I know, but those are 90% right wing.
He's like, don't get carried away there. Don't tell anyone to go like, whoa. We're already down to like 55 members. We can't cut that in half again now. Come on. That's all. Woo. Anyway.
No, I know that it's like.
They're not actually members.
They're not actually members. I know it is.
And by the way, guys, how do I know? So the guy keeps lying.
He was not down for that cancel your membership line at all. Anyway, there's a tone of the very important work that Anna and Cenk seem to think that they're doing on TYT, the movement that they're building and have built over the years of maintaining this fucking show. But yeah, so now with that in mind, let's take a look at some of their greatest hits from over the last
gold mine.
5 or 10 years. We can start here going back in time a little bit. And to be fair, this is from 10 plus years ago, so take it for what you will. But
he was a grown man. He was older than me and Gavin when he made these statements.
Yeah, and we're going to get closer and closer to the future too. We're going to start in the past and then get closer and closer to the present. But yeah, let's take a look at how TYT spoke just not that long ago.
How does she decide is a good way to make up for that, Anna?
She flashes more coochie.
The more this is from last night. More cooch. This is unbelievable. I mean, look, she's just flat out flashing us. I mean, she's become Uncle Creepy Tom, who's, like purposely goes out with his bathrobe on and goes, oh, yeah, sorry about that. With the bathrobe open. Like, she obviously did this on purpose. By the way, you saw the blocked out pictures there because we can't put up naked pictures on YouTube. So we're putting up the actual pictures, the uncensored versions, on theyoungturks.com. So you see a link to it, and you can check it out there on theyoungturks.com. But honestly, I mean, what are you going to see? It's a cooch.
Okay.
I mean,
and this is the disgusting part about this. As people who are claiming to be leftists, like Britney Spears was a mentally ill person that was viciously exploited by the media and the entertainment industry, and it's actually a really sad story. I mean, this person it's kind of like like a Michael Jackson story, but without the molestation, and a lot less talent, admittedly. But like she was literally put through that machine as a young child and used and abused, and of course you're going to have a mental breakdown, and then to be profiting off of that and degrading her in the least fashionable way, and only so that later in your life you could fucking moralize and like pretend to call yourself a feminist just because that's the lane you've taken as a commentator. I don't know, pretty fucking gross.
Yeah, no, and this one gets really, really worse.
I guess some people are into it, but I saw the real thing, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but there's something weird about the way her cooch looks.
It is. I know. It feels like, you know what it is? It looks like an old cooch.
It does look like an old cooch.
Yeah. All right. So, Anna, is there some psychological thing behind this?
Oh, but Roger Waters is sexist, by the way.
Yeah. Or is she just so drunk she doesn't realize she doesn't have panties on and just opens up her legs like this in front of the cameras?
I don't think it's a psychological thing at all. I mean, first of all, if you're going to wear a short skirt or a short dress without underwear, you're an idiot. Like, that's just stupid.
Mental
illness. You know what I mean? And she's done it so many different times. I mean, it's not like this has happened once or twice. It's happened like 3 or 4 times. Nobody wants to see her coochie, girl. Close those legs.
My guess is actually a lot of people want to see her coochie, unfortunately.
It's nasty.
You think it's nasty?
Yeah,
it's questionable. I'm telling you, it's questionable. It's bald. All right, I think it's psychological. There's no question. Because, I mean, you don't do this by accident. It didn't happen 3, 4, 18 times by accident. She's in a desperate attempt to get attention. She's like, look at me. Okay, you won't look at my face? Here's my cooch. And what am I going to do? All right, Brittany, get some help, man. Get some help. Because you got to cover yourself up. This isn't doing you any favors. All right, if you want to, real pictures, uncensored, on theyoungturks.com.
So he's acknowledging that this is a mental health issue, that this is a woman that needs help. Go, let me participate in your exploitation. Let me commodify you some more while you're calling for help in the most desperate fashion. Let me continue to demean you, to commodify your entire body and your existence as you're rejecting all of it and trying to do the best you can. Like, oh, this is disgusting. This is a bad take. And I simp for Brittany, comrade Brittany.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And what's worse about this is that it was literally their job to do this. They were monetizing this on a daily basis publicly, degrading women, making fun of their bodies, and let's keep going because it gets worse. And this, like I said, this was a little bit further back. This was from a different era, et cetera, et cetera. Let's move a little bit closer into the future.
I believe that if I were the benevolent dictator of the world, I would legalize bestiality where you are giving, where you are pleasuring the animal. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Now why? Why did that happen? It's the dumbest thing I've said.
It really is the dumbest thing you said.
No, I'll tell you why. Because was the case that we covered where there was like a guy or a girl or something that was pleasuring a horse, and the horse came to a conclusion, right? So who got harmed?
You know that people who are, okay, look, not to be a downer about what you're saying, because what you're saying sounds kind of funny, but
and it's actually right
a lot
here.
of people who are being raped can actually have an orgasm. So like if a guy is being raped, he can have an orgasm. Like you can't say, if you come, that means you wanted it. That's not the right way to go.
But number one, you're being an unbelievable downer.
I am, but that's the truth.
Number two, they're not both humans. Number three, I mean, if you really asked the horse, did you mind? The answer's got to be, no.
This is just so weird.
You see what I'm saying? No.
This is such an awkward conversation.
Again, we're not playing these clips to be like, oh, this is so disgusting. You like aren't they disgusting people? No, it's because they're just talking about how, oh, we're fostering this work climate of progressive ideas and values, and we're so above making terrible, degrading, horrible jokes. And then you look like 5 years back and they're literally monetizing this kind of shit publicly. And let's watch one more. It gets worse.
I don't know what this chick's name is, but I saw it independently on the internet. And I was like, oh, geez, Lord mercy. At first, I was wondering if it was photoshopped, right? But it turns out it's not. She's real, right?
It looks photoshopped. I mean, her arms look unbelievable.
Take a full screen on it, yeah. Oh, no. And I heard there was a debate on this. There's no debate. I'm ending the debate. I don't have my gavel with me, but I'll use my fist. 999! No way. No way. Not even close.
No way what? Like there's a
not
debate.
Even like I'd be worried that she was going to break something of mine during sex, and I'm much more worried that she's going to pull out a jammy on me.
She actually doesn't. Oh yeah, she does. Never mind. I was going to say she doesn't look so bad in that picture, but this one.
Oh, there's an excellent chance she's a male.
No, okay, look. Here's the thing. I'm not going to go quite as far.
Look at how long her arms are.
I'm not going to go quite as far as you have.
I don't want to find out what's under that skirt.
Okay, just
Are we sure this isn't Photoshop? That looks like the longest arm in the world. And right there's no way I would hook up with her. I think, no way, man. I want to find out what's going on downstairs. How large are her hands?
She hits the gym. I don't see the crazy freakiness about
JR,
it.
I see how you roll.
What is the thing? It's like, well, yeah, and I see how you roll. You're afraid of women. Isn't
that crazy?
That dude's a real one. That dude, I don't know who he is,
JR.
but he was the only real one in the room for that one. Oh, 100%. I see how you're afraid of women. Like that was the only way to respond to that. One, what the fuck? Disgusting transphobia vibes in that. Like what? Two, what? A woman can't work out and get really fucking strong. Cheerleading is a hard fucking thing, dude.
Dude, I know. No, it's fucking disgusting.
That's ridiculous. This is like, what year is it? I feel like I was watching Rush Limbaugh do that.
No, I know. And that was the most recent one. That was probably like 5 or 6 years ago.
Your big hero right there that does that to women, looks up their skirt and then laughs at them.
So I want to be clear about something. I love our members, but I want to be clear about who we are and the kind of audience we want to foster. Because
in that picture, but this one.
There's an excellent chance she's a male.
No, okay, look. Here's the thing. I'm not going to go quite as far.
Look at how long her arms are.
I'm not going to go quite as far as you have.
I don't want to find out what's under that skirt.
Okay.
Just disgusting.
Yeah, like, oh, what the fuck? And that's what we're trying to point out, guys. Like, this isn't an either or situation, right?
And
like,
if there was a bad work environment at TYT where sexually explicit jokes were permissible, they fostered that climate. Look at their own content. This is what they were monetizing and approving of. So, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't want to come down on this issue and be like, I don't really, to be honest, I don't really think anyone wins in the situation. I don't think anyone really comes out of the situation.
No, and that's what I was just about to get ready to say.
Not Anna. I think everyone kind of loses here. You know, it's not a great look for anyone involved, but I just think it's worth pointing out all this context and how hypocritical this entire episode is.
Yeah, that's all I was going to say, too, is that you can come down in the position where you're like, yeah, that joke was wrong. 100%. Would not make that joke at any point in my life, especially not at work. Okay. You can also be in the same camp of, yeah, the reason that they're trying to dredge this up now is so fucking obvious. And the hypocrisy and the tone that they're taking is downright astonishing. Yeah. I think that's the reasonable take. Also, I think it has to be said that Jimmy wrote her a fucking card apologizing. I think that's important context too. And I think it's probably why she at the time was like, oh, like I was really mad, but he seems to have, resolved it. I don't know. Like you said a million times, we don't have the context, but you don't see, you don't usually include, you felt so bad you wrote me a card about it when you're like blackmailing somebody. Like that's not usually part of the thing unless it's like, oh, they did write me a nice card and they were like, I'm really sorry. And then they never did that again, but I still want to, I don't know. We can't say, but yeah, I just feel like the whole situation is a clusterfuck and it debases everybody.
Yeah, it's a huge clusterfuck. Like I said, it's a mess for everyone involved. It's not necessarily a great look for anybody, and we're definitely not defending workplace sexual harassment. So that should be said, but also there's a lot of context here that also needs to be explained, and it's just ugly. It's just ugly all around.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
but this gets worse. There's more.
Oh yeah, which one did you want to go to next?
Oh, I was just gonna dive into the Aaron Mate tweets because he had some good ones in here.
Oh yeah, here's a good one right here where he points out
yeah, let's see here. He quote tweeted. We don't have to get into it if it's but yeah, see, I just wanted to point out, like, look, see, this is kind of so here, let me look it up. I had another one saved, maybe not. Also, we didn't play it because we didn't want to give it any amplification. There is also another video that was circulating of like 6 times where Cenk just says the N-word over and over and over and over and over again. So it's like you want to stand on the top of a mountain and then watch that clip get circulated in the same clip where you're like, I'm gonna say it 7 more times in this segment, and then you do, and you don't give a fuck, and you don't ever apologize. I don't think.
Yeah.
So anyway, we can move on from this, I guess, because it is pretty much over. But
it's a messy situation, and obviously, you know, we'll see what happens going forward. If new evidence comes out, if you know,
we'll keep covering it. Fuck, I don't have an allegiance to either party, really. I just, from what I'm gathering, it's TYT is just tanking right now, and they're trying to do anything but focus on their coverage, and they're trying to get people to stop watching Jimmy Dore because they think that's the main driver of their, you know, tanking ratings. Really, it's the fact that they've just become fucking diet MSNBC for the left. Like, it's like a more progressively, like, palatable MSNBC, I guess you could call it that. You know, so it's yeah.
And absolutely, I mean, the end goal was achieved of moving the conversation from the slanderous comments about Syria and their coverage of Syria to now this. So, you know, mission accomplished if that's what this was about.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I think the Aaron Mate component is important, because it was literally about their fucking smearing him, and now they have to change it and try and debase Jimmy Dore because he's the loudest voice that's amplifying Aaron's reporting on the internet and in the space that TYT's in. Yeah.
And also, it's just worth noting too, before we move on, that, you know, Cenk is I mean, Bernie had to unendorse Cenk. Cenk had to got kicked out of his own organization just as Democrats. Like, this isn't, it's just so hypocritical of these people to now be turning around and wagging their finger and stuff. But overall, you know, everyone should try to avoid making sexist jokes. Everyone should try to avoid, you know, being problematic, being a piece of shit to their fellow human being. And I think that should be the main takeaway here, you know, regardless of anything else. Everyone should try to do better. Everyone should try to make sure that they're looking out for their fellow comrades and not degrading people based on their gender, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I hope everyone.
That trans shit was fucking crazy from Cenk. You can't take anything that motherfucker says seriously. He's so fucking sincere. I can't believe he said that shit. That's so disgusting.
I know. No, it's totally obvious he was. I think someone's made this point, but like, it's totally obvious he was trying to go for that like Howard Stern, like shock jock vibe back in the 100%. Day when it was still more acceptable to do that. But then the minute the culture changed and it became unacceptable to traffic and that kind of humor, he immediately turns around and wags his finger and moralizes it.
Yeah, I think that's what we were actually talking about on the phone earlier. Yeah. It's that exact kind of shit. It's like, you know, and that only came back to, one, bite him in the ass, but two, you know, expose just the fact that he was looking for any lane. Guys, there are so many people like this that get into progressive media and they just, all right, where's the world going? You know, look at fucking Dave Rubin, guys. He came from TYT. Like, look at this. Like, this is a real thing that happened. So, you know, even if you watch a commentator and you fucking disagree with them, if you realize that they have ideological consistency, I think they're a lot more worth staying with than the people who are just kind of trying to tell you and feed you what you want to hear.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But yeah, this was definitely, like I said, just an absolute supernova of craziness.
How do they come back from this? Can they come back from this? Like I just don't. I don't know how, as an organization, as a network, after you've done this to yourself, could you imagine if like Krystal Maddow and like, you know, fucking somebody other person from MSNBC?
You mean Rachel Maddow?
Wait, what did I say?
You said Krystal Maddow?
Oh yeah, I meant Rachel Maddow. Fucking, I don't know what the fuck. I'm on drugs right now, apparently. Yeah, Rachel. Imagine Rachel Maddow going against, you know, some other. I can't even think of the name of another host on her network, but imagine, like, you know what I mean, or like a former MSNBC host just just going crazy, and they're using, you know, her program to just fucking go after another. That only happens on the left, guys. That only happens on the left. And we're not above the commentary. Obviously, this is we comment on BreadTube, but it only happens here.
Exactly.
And I just think it debases your credibility.
Yeah, and also we're just not afraid to be honest about it here. You know, we're not afraid to work through our feelings and try to get to the bottom of things and what the correct answer is. We're not claiming to be, you know, moral arbiters or anything like that.
We're just two dudes that like talking about this in private, so we started doing it on camera.
Yeah, and we're always also welcome to, you know, suggestion or comment. Like, we do read our comments and take it seriously when someone comes at it with an honest criticism of our commentary. Like, I actually do read that stuff and take it very seriously when someone, you know, has an opinion about my opinion that, you know, you fucked this up, you know, you got this wrong. I'm willing to admit that every time. So, you know, I think that's really what separates an honest commentator from a demagogue.
Yep. And us, 100%. But speaking of digging up old beef, it just keeps coming right back around to this shit every single fucking time you open your computer. There's something about this. I said that in the most old person way possible after I was busting you for using the word program. Open your computer. What the fuck? But anyway, yeah, once I open up my old fucking internet machine, get here, I'll open up the Internet Explorer. But no, force the vote back into the leftist conversation in a big bad way. And this was a really productive conversation. Shout out to Brianna Joy Gray and Ryan Grimm for having this chat. Because I think that it shows how this could have all gone down in a different way, how we could have all just, you know, articulated our differences and maybe reached some sort of common ground, you know, but obviously this isn't how it worked out. But the reason we decided we would still kind of cover this is because in order to ever truly move on, we need to really kind of feel like we're reaching each other, and discussions are the only way that happens. So instead of, you know, making, you know, one-sided videos, Gavin and I have had to have people on the podcast to have these discussions in person, where you can actually engage, where you actually have to, you know, challenge yourself to think from another person's perspective and you know, try and move the ball forward and, you know, convince them of your argument also, but, you know, still be challenged by their pushback. And I thought that this was a great example of that. And so we wanted to comment on the most recent Bad Faith interview with Ryan Grimm.
Yeah, shout out to Brianna Joy Gray for conducting this interview really well. And also, when you're watching this, you really are just struck by, you know, how articulate and kind of an interviewer she is, how good she is at this. You know, a lot of people do just try to make it out like Brianna Joy Gray is like a female version of Jimmy Dore, very, you know, angry and like crazy and all that stuff. And obviously that Jimmy Dore like does that stuff well, but it's just not what Brianna is doing. She's very different. She has a very different style. She, you know, is always extremely insightful and intelligent, and she's never reactionary, which is something that, again, her opponents try to paint her as, which is mind-blowing to me. Because, again, if you watch an interview like this, as we're about to, or clips from it rather, you'll see that it's just so patient, so kind, and so good. So, yeah, let's take a look at this, and we can react. I think she really expertly, you know, she really expertly got Ryan Grimm here.
There is an argument, and I think this is the big argument that the left needs to wrestle with, which is, are lefties willing to leverage their influence? Is Bernie willing to hold up a bill in the Senate? Are these people willing to hold up must-pass bills that will infer a great benefit to the neediest people? Or are they going to cave because Democrats care about people and Republicans don't, right? And that is a legitimate conversation to have about something like whether to hold up a COVID bill for 15. I would argue, and might later in this conversation argue, that they should have, but I can see an argument against it on kind of moral grounds and the gravity of what was going on in the country at the time. Nancy Pelosi being Speaker of the House is not something I'm losing sleep about. And some people were arguing, well, it's just going to be some other corporatist ultimately after many rounds of votes. Okay. But Nancy Pelosi wants it to be Nancy Pelosi. And it isn't no skin off my back. Maybe I'm no better, no worse if it's Hakeem Jeffries. But I know Nancy Pelosi is pissed off, and she might be willing to give me some things so that she can maintain her status as the most powerful woman Democrat in America.
Right. I mean, it's always an open question about, because if she's giving something, she's taking from somebody else. Like, so if she's giving PAYGO, let's say, a full PAYGO, stripping it out, done. She's taking from the Blue Dogs. And when you have... I support this. I support that too. Take everything from them. Like, screw them. They get as many votes per member as the progressives do. And she's got this balancing act. And so you wind up in this situation where she can effectively, play people off of each other, and so they should have played more. It does not appear like they played as much hardball as they could have. Like I'm totally there, but it's also not the case that like the door was open and they could just like fill their bags and walk out.
Well, so would you agree then at this point that they should have forced the vote on January 3rd for something, even if it weren't for a floor vote for Medicare for all? So maybe we don't want to call it force the vote, whatever it is.
Right.
But they should have.
No, absolutely. The two leverage points are the vote on the rules package and the vote for speaker. Like definitely, like those are, like those that I mean that's the only reason Pelosi's meeting with Jayapal and Pocan to begin with, is because she needs them, and they certainly did like try to use their leverage. I agree with you that they didn't use it as effectively as they could have.
So now that we have Ryan Grimm on the record saying force the vote.
Okay, wait, we can pause and reflect on that part. Yeah. Oof. I think that he basically, this is what I think he basically came around to saying that was an effective strategy.
Yes. Oh, 100%.
So that's the thing about Ryan. He did come around. He didn't dig himself in the trenches further. Nope. He had a good conversation, and that's what I like about the guy. And that's why I think he is a good faith actor. I think that, anybody who's willing to, and continue to engage on this in a calm, rational kind of manner is worth continuing to have these conversations with, because what the fuck do you want by having these debates if not to bring somebody onto your side? So good on Brianna Joy Gray for making this point really clearly and basically in a way where it's undeniable.
No, exactly. And this is like literally what a debate should be. It should be two people having a conversation, and one convinces the other, or at least makes them see their line of logic in a way that they now reason with and understand. And that's exactly what happened here. And it's just, it is refreshing to watch. And I like dramatic blood sport debate just as much as the next person. I like drama just as much as the next person. But when it comes to actually strategizing and getting to the end goal that we all agree we need to get to, this is absolutely so much more productive. And kudos to both of these people for actually being able to have a reasonable exchange of ideas, an actual productive exchange of ideas. And it gets even better. So let's take a look here.
As they could have.
So now I want to ask you then about this other moment that caused some folks on the left to become distrustful of you, which is that The Intercept uniquely, I think, is perceived as one of the most serious, like a real serious news organization that it has left politics. And so for that reason, I believe, is able to get some pretty important interviews with progressives where they know they can come and get a fair hearing. Unlike when they go on CNN, are going to have to answer questions like, but isn't it mean to cut CEO pay or whatever? So you have had access to these people in a way that most of us in the Force the Vote movement haven't. And when you had an opportunity to interview Pramila Jayapal, I know that I, for one, was frustrated that it seemed like you didn't press her on the rationale that she used to defend her inaction at that moment.
Right.
Which was, as a refresher, that she didn't want to risk Kevin McCarthy becoming Speaker of the House. The idea being that if you don't elect Nancy Pelosi, somehow the Republicans would have a majority that would enable a Republican to become Speaker of the House, which logistically isn't possible unless a bunch of Democrats were to cross the aisle and vote for Kevin McCarthy, because it's whoever gets over the 50% threshold, not just who has a bare majority.
Yeah, right. Basically, as long as the reason that like the Force the Vote movement knew this is because I had explained it to Jimmy Dore.
Thank you. You're a real mensch.
Real mensch. Well, he reached out when he saw my initial argument. He's like, "Do you want to come on the show?" And I'm, "Yeah, absolutely, sure, I'll come on the show." I will add, he never uploaded the video after agreeing with me all the way through. This is not your. You don't have to answer for your.
You should get back get it
I'll
together.
I'll go back on. I don't care.
I will DM Jimmy
on.
about having you back on the show.
I'm happy to go back on. He can call me all the names in the book, but he won't. He will wait until I'm off the show, and then he'll call me names, which is what he did that time. That clip exists because Jimmy actually posted it to dunk on Cenk. because Cenk had been saying, you're going to make McCarthy speaker. And Jimmy Dore's like, look, I had Ryan Grimm on, respected congressional reporter. And like, he said that that's not true. And so functionally, basically, anybody who's voting against Pelosi who's not a Republican would have to vote for somebody else. Brianna.
Do it.
Speaker Brianna. And that is then recorded as a vote for a person, and it gets added to the total. And so then Pelosi doesn't have a majority, and then it goes back. And so, yes, like I'll like cry uncle on that one, like for sure. Like if I had that interview to do over again, and she's like, but it's a difference between McCarthy and Pelosi, I'd be like, well, not on that day. Like that's not right. Like basically you'll go back to caucus, you'll fight it out, and either another speaker candidate emerges or you get your concessions, and then everybody agrees and it goes back to the floor. And everybody has to agree, because if the Blue Dogs are like, no, I'm not doing so and so, or I'm not doing Katie Porter as speaker, then she don't, so but eventually they find and it has taken days in the past to find a speaker. So yeah, fair enough. Like, I guess I like here, and the irony is, like, I felt like I was like doing a solid to the forced to vote people by asking at all about it, because in like my preference at that point was to move on. It had gotten so toxic.
It's lots of people's preference, but I won't let it happen.
And so then later I'm like, shit, I should have done that, and I'm getting dunked on here. And yeah, I just didn't think of it in the moment as like the follow-up, because a lot of like my interviewing style, I'm not Mehdi Hassan, who's like listening for every word that's slightly off from his interlocutor, and then just like grabbing onto it and breaking their leg with it. In my mind, I'm like, which moves a lot more slowly than most people's, and definitely Mehdi's, and definitely yours. I'm thinking of my next question, and so I need to do a better job of like absorbing the question and like responding. But anyway, so
well, look, what I would say is that my main frustration was that if you are really keyed into the arguments that are being made by the force of vote people, I do want to stay on that point for a second, which is that with the interview, I understand that people have different interview styles, and it can be easy to miss a follow-up. People complain to us at Bad Faith all the time about having missed something in an interview, and people will probably complain about this as well. But if my feeling at the time was, if you are really following and invested and have like respect for the case that the force the vote side is making, then you would know that Kevin McCarthy argument was one of the most specious and prevalent arguments being used against us. And the second the word McCarthy was out of her mouth, it should have been like, red flags, this is where we nail her. Like, this is where it's going down. I would have been waiting with bated breath for her to try to use that excuse with me.
Please
try to McCarthy me.
Right. And that there's an asymmetry. Like, I never actually even wrote an article about this.
Yeah, I think I was the only one in America who did.
and Sirota.
And Sirota, for sure.
And so I wasn't as attuned to the buzzwords as I should have.
But this is the thing, Ryan.
Even though it's like defining like my presence at the time.
To get involved.
Yeah, I
without knowing what you're that is in and of itself the sin.
It's like leave the party. Like you're late for the party. You don't know what's going on. Just go.
It's like it's like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer slapping on a kente cloth mask and kneeling down and having lots of thoughts and feelings like they're going to come to the cookout and explain to me how to make potato salad. Just stay out of it if you don't know.
Damn, she took him to task at the end there. Oh, you're still muted, by the way, Gavin. But holy shit, that was quite the interview by Brianna Joy Gray. She is a master class. I can't stand looking at myself with my glasses on. I was getting a little bit of a headache, so I started to put them on, but I fucking can't do it. So I need.
You look fine with the glasses, by the way. But
yeah, I hate that it reflects what I'm looking at in the glasses while I'm looking at it. Yeah. So I'd rather just be able to see a little worse.
But anyway, I thought that was just a masterful interview. And again, she basically got him, but by completely being nice and extending the line of reason and logic and having a conversation, but still completely dismantled the line of logic essentially and got him to admit that he had been wrong at the time and that the strategy was right.
Yeah, and good on him for admitting it, right?
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to dunk on him at all.
No, I'm not either. I have done so much dunking on Ryan that I feel like I need to go a little out of my way to be like, this is exactly what I wanted from him the whole time. Right, was to be like, no, this was a good tactic. I don't care what his fucking criticisms of Jimmy Dore is. It could be like, you know what I mean? Like, that's completely irrelevant to me.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I just thought that was a really, really good interview. I'd recommend you guys check out the full segments on the Bad Faith YouTube channel. I think you can find the whole interview on their Patreon or something like that. But either way, it was a really, really good interview. And just kudos to Brianna Joy Gray.
And one last thing on the subject matter, we would be happy to moderate a discussion between Jimmy and Ryan at any point on the Vanguard. Just throwing that out into the ether.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. We would always be happy to moderate any sort of debate, but that one in particular would be great. Because again, I feel like that would be a conversation that could really use a moderator. It would really help.
Yeah, and we would keep it anchored. We both have policy-oriented questions, so
exactly. So yeah, that was the kind of productive exchange we should probably see more of. On the left, that was really a great exchange of ideas and all that. So just kudos to everyone involved. I thought it was really worthwhile.
Yeah, for sure. And did we want to react to Krystal and Saagar on the JRE?
Yeah, indeed. I pulled a little clip from here. I just downloaded the audio. I just pulled the audio because I didn't want to get fucked by Spotify or anything like that.
Sure.
But yeah, we can take a few minutes or a look at the first few minutes of Krystal and Saagar's recent appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience. I thought this was interesting. They posted some other clips on the Joe Rogan Clips channel, so if you guys want to check those out, that's worth doing as well. But I just pulled the first couple minutes of the interview where they get into breaking points a little bit, the exit from Rising, going independent, all that. So I figured we could react to that and take a listen.
So yeah, this will be huge for BP.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, you guys have a new show. Hey, Joe, what's up? I just want to say, I told you, I knew it was going to work.
Yeah.
It
would have happened without you.
I knew it was going to work. I was like, why are you trapped?
I mean, it really is actually true. We've been thinking about going independent for a while because it's just more consistent with our values. The Hill takes money from all kinds of people that are very contrary to the things that we've been talking about. But, it's scary I got kids, I got, bills, I got all the health insurance, all this stuff. And so I think especially during COVID when we couldn't actually directly interact with the audience in person, it's hard to know how real it is. So when we talked to you and we're like, oh, we're thinking about it, we're kind of nervous, and you weren't just like, maybe, you were like, yes, do this. It actually really did help us to make the move. So thank you.
No question. Terrible person to take advice like that from because I'm always like, jump. Yeah. Fucking jump.
Well, in this case, it was the right call. So broken clock or whatever.
It's really scary. And it's one of those things where we were telling you this before, where you're like, you don't know. If you're like, am I going to miss this? You have these guys, you have the support. Like, I don't have to deal with all this like administrative stuff and like set design and upload. But honestly, we love it so much. Like we wrapped, I think, our second show, so we could finally got. And I texted her. I was like, this is amazing. Like we're free.
Yeah.
We do it the way that we want. We produce it the way that we want. And just having all the like big stuff out of your mind in terms of like the pressures of corporate media, because to be clear, like the Hill never like directly censored us, right? But, and you've talked about this, it's about these outside interests. Like there's interests that their company has that have nothing to do with us, but could impact their interests based upon what I say. And I've told this story publicly now about what happened, but like we were doing a segment. This is a basic segment. I want to be very charitable. And once again, to be clear, the Hill never said anything. They said, don't say this or whatever. But we're talking about the seniority system for Democrats in Congress. And I was like, this creates really perverse incentives because you have all these really old people who run Congress, like Maxine Waters, who's like 80 years old. Here's all I said. Maxine Waters will be chairwoman of the Financial Services Committee till the day she dies. That's it. So I later find out her fucking press secretary called someone at the Hill and said, Saagar's issuing a death threat against Maxine Waters. Saagar's issuing what do I want to say? I want to say, go fuck yourself. I'd be like, literally put me on the phone with them. Go fuck yourself.
Do you have a reaction, Gavin? Because the one thing that stands out to me that's obviously hilarious is that they're literally being coached by Joe Rogan. This is the elephant in the room. They're being coached by Joe Rogan about how to go independent right after he sells the fuck out to Spotify for hundreds of millions of dollars and starts getting his own content policed and pacified. And let's be clear, much of the content that has been policed, and Gavin, you're still muted, by the way. Much of the content that's being policed I disagree with, but the fact that he's playing ball with Spotify at all, and he's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth in that clip.
Oh, he kind of is. And I think honestly that might be kind of the subtext of why he was urging them to go independent, because he's like sick of dealing with all the constraints of Spotify and all that. Because they were talking about kind of implicit threats to their speech, the calls, like, am I allowed to say this? Am I not? But Joe Rogan at Spotify, on the other hand, has literally had like the staff mutinize against him and threatened to leave the company. Like, it's been way more overt what they're kind of trying to get him to tamp down on saying. And again, like you said, most of which I totally disagree with Joe on, and I would never sanction those conversations on our podcast. But the point is, he definitely has experience with that, corporate company trying to press the thumbs on the scale of what is, within the realms of reasonable discourse.
Yeah. And I wouldn't argue that they don't belong and that they shouldn't exist, right? Just because I think that Joe Rogan has on a lot of odious fuckers that he agrees with and doesn't push back on, and is totally in his bubble, and, falls for every single right-wing talking point trap when he has a guest on there, besides legal or like keeping marijuana against the law. That's like the only thing that he's 100 shooting on. So it's just like irritating and frustrating. But on the other point, it's like, of course I wouldn't sanction any kind of censorship against him. He's literally the most popular commentator in the entire world. I would be fucking lying if I said that I didn't ever learn anything from the guy's mic presence, right? I mean, fuck, I was a overnight pizza delivery guy driver, right? Like, I've listened to some Joe Rogan podcasts, like, you know what I mean? Like, the guy's an icon, and you can't just be like, oh yeah, the conversations you're having, like that's inappropriate for the public. You can't allow that to happen, even if I rabidly disagree with Joe Rogan and a lot of the fucking shit he says most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of shit that I disagree with Joe Rogan on, he had a pretty borderline disgusting conversation on the show the other day with some commentator. I don't even know who she was, but they were talking about the homeless issue in LA in specific, and just not coming at it from the right perspective. And
who's shocked?
They were like,
$100 doesn't understand poverty.
Yeah, it was like, these people just need to like go like figure out their lives or whatever. It's like, what do you mean? Like, they literally can't afford a house. Like, are you not aware of I mean, obviously he's not. He's fucking an elitist, out of touch person. But anyway, still cool that Krystal and Saagar got that platform.
It's a huge platform.
And it's not like they just sat there and nodded along while Joe Rogan said right-wing talking points. No, they were talking about Amazon and talking about unions and talking about big tech and all that kind of stuff that is based and stuff. So it was definitely an interview that's worth checking out. I listened to the whole thing today and it was pretty good. So yeah, definitely, I'm pretty much at the point where I only listen to a Joe Rogan episode if it has someone like Krystal or Kyle or Saagar, or like someone that I actually find to be an intelligent thinker. I'm not just going to listen to him sit across from a blithering right-wing moron and nod along to elitist talking points. That I've totally lost interest in that content. But I do think he still maintains some value as kind of a good like moderator or something, like a somewhat
kind of
neutral.
A bellwether, right?
He's a bellwether. He kind of comes off like your average everyday centrist, even though he's super fucking elitist. You know what I'm saying? He's still
that's the whole problem with America, right? Yeah. That's the whole problem. It's because our idea of centrism is completely divorced from class. So he can be completely tucked away in Austin, Texas, as a 100 millionaire, right? And in people's minds, they think that everything he did is a result of his meritocratic effort. Dude, the way that people talk about Joe Rogan is crazy to me sometimes. Like, I'll have conversations with just like my random like people in my life, that aren't politically plugged in and whatever. And they'll be like telling me all the news that they get from Joe Rogan. And I am there telling them like, okay, well, you're kind of misrepresenting this argument here because of all this, and this. And then they'll be like, no, dude, he had this guest on and they were talking about how all that shit is fake. You're just getting that from mainstream media. I'm like, do I look like the kind of motherfucker that gets shit from mainstream media? Like, please listen to me. So like, that shit is frustrating. But like, at the end of the day, you can't censor the guy.
Right.
1, he's too big. 2, it's immoral. 3, like, I would rather just spend my time breaking down the bullshit arguments when I see them.
Yeah, and also it is interesting too, just from a viewer perspective, when someone like Krystal Ball or Kyle Kulinski, for example, goes on a platform like Joe Rogan, because that the host isn't just going to be agreeing with them all the time. They might have to actually defend their ideas a little bit, which can create an interesting dynamic, a little bit more of an entertaining dynamic too. If you're just used to two people talk to each other that agree on 95% of the issues, that can turn into an echo chamber. So even if I totally disagree with whoever the host or the co-host is or whatever, it still can create an interesting dynamic to watch two people kind of go back and forth or disagree on a subject, because then you get to find out where you fall on that issue, through the process of hearing that discourse, you can kind of figure out where you fall on something. So
yeah,
I think there's a lot
you
of
and I
value in
both
that.
watch debates all day long because of that. Like I watch throwback weird debates all the time.
Oh, me too. That's like you'll find me at like 2:00 in the morning watching some like Destiny V fill in the blank debate from 5 years ago or some shit.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Absolutely not. Fuck you.
Man, Skrillex's nephew says no. But anyway,
Anna Kasparian moment. Fuck you.
Yeah. Fuck you, man. Yeah. You're not a real journalist. You're not a real journalist.
Anyway, good shit. I would definitely recommend you guys check out the full interviews, both the Brianna one and the Krystal Saagar one. Like I said, they're good conversations to listen to if you have some time to kill. Good exchange of ideas to be privy to. But yeah, I guess that's probably everything we have to go over today.
Yeah. Basically, thanks for the super chat.
So
learned of us through useful idiots. Yeah, Matt Taibbi is on record saying that he wants to make the Vanguard the biggest thing on the internet. So if you respect Matt Taibbi's opinion on things, you might have to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. And thanks for everybody that was fucking watching.
Yeah, thanks so much. And also, I did realize that we forgot to shout out our fine patrons.
Our fucking patrons, man. Jesus Christ.
We're fucking degenerates. And also,
We're losing our edge.
I do have a bit of an announcement patron-wise to make. If you guys have been watching for a while, you'll remember that we've been trying out a few different iterations of this idea, but in the past we were inviting on our Vanguardian level patrons for like a once a month if you want to come on and talk to us or whatever. And to be honest, it didn't quite work out like we hoped. It seemed like there was a lot of technical issues every time someone tried to join us. It seemed like more often than not, people, didn't their schedules weren't working with ours, and it just kind of became a headache. So what we're going to try doing going forward, and we're going to be hopefully rolling this out here in the next 2 weeks or so, is like a call-in segment. Like if you think about like the Tim Black show, and I know there's a couple other BreadTube shows that do this as well.
I think does call-in sometimes.
Majority Report did them for a while, and I think still does. Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to try to get that set up, and we're going to have people call in during certain hours or during a certain segment of our show. It would be obviously nice if we can maybe do like a later in the evening kind of a call-in segment where we can just shoot the shit with viewers. But to maintain that perk of the Vanguardians being able to join, we're going to give Vanguardian level patrons priority. So when we do those call-in segments, if you're a Vanguardian level patron, you'll be first in line to talk to us. And, obviously there's probably going to be a lot of people calling in that won't get a chance to actually, have their piece said because there's just too many calls. But again, if you want to become a Vanguardian level patron, you'll be able to do it that way. And we just figured that way it'll, get rid of some of those technical issues. If your webcam isn't working, or if your fucking internet's not all there, it won't be so much of a clusterfuck, because time after time we've just been sitting here and trying to figure out technical issues and
also
echo.
We know it can be intimidating to jump on, show your face in front of a large audience. Gavin and I are completely immune to this because we could take shit for days. You could say whatever the fuck you want about me, where I come from, Gavin. Fuck, it's not going to hit us at all. But a lot of people do get worried about the shit that you take when you fucking do commentary like this in the comment section or whatever. And it's like, a guy, like Gavin said, we read all the fucking comments. We're completely numb to the hate. But I do appreciate whenever anybody leaves insightful criticism, because I will read that also. And if you have a really, really, really spot on criticism, you can keep me up for days. So that's another reason to send us direct messages on Patreon.
Yeah, exactly. And also another thing we've teased, but I wanted to let everyone know about, is that we are going to be doing our next iteration of our book club coming up soon. We're going to be doing a Chris Hedges book.
Yeah.
And we're going to be releasing those episodes a few days early for our patrons, Comrade and Vanguardian level. So if you just pay $5 a month, you'll get early access to our new book club. We're going through a Chris Hedges book. Super excited for that.
Yeah, Wages of Rebellion, guys. It's going to be a great read. We'll be doing it same as we always do, kind of chapter by chapter breakdowns, maybe 2 chapters at a time. But that way we can really kind of get into it, really have good discussions. We'll pull quotes. It should be good stuff.
Yeah, and thanks so much for that super chat. Holipsism? I don't know if I said that right, but thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
We appreciate the support, guys.
I'll check out my tweets. And if it got buried in my mentions, I apologize, but I'll definitely definitely try to find that tweet. Thanks so much. But yeah, I really appreciate the donations. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. Obviously, we love chatting with you guys. And
2 Christian authors in a row, but your hosts are stern atheists. So you get that full 360 on the Vanguard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, they're both technically. But look, man, and I've made this point on the podcast before. As a secular guy, I've never had any fucking inclination that there was a God or anything other than that going on. I do typically tend to find the most moral conviction in some of these figures that are deeply rooted in, what's that shit called? Like Christian liberation theology and all that kind of stuff. Basically that like true Jesus kind of Christianity. Those are the people
that Jesus believer.
I'm not a true Jesus believer, but the people who are really following that kind of like communist, spend your whole life defending the weak, give to the poor, all that shit. I don't have a problem with those people. And I do find a lot of moral conviction resides in those individuals because they are drawing on what they imagine is like an all righteous, all holy kind of ethical moral system. So it like compels those people to oftentimes it also compels them to do all kinds of horrible shit in the names of like the Crusades. I'm just saying in this particular instance, 2 of our biggest inspirations and heroes on the show, 2 people that we look for moral clarity, are deeply rooted in that Christian liberation.
Absolutely. And I would totally agree that when it comes to like the Christian ideology, the New Testament is actually pretty fucking based. It's like a communist manifesto almost. The Old Testament is garbage. Throw it straight in the trash and fucking burn it. I'm serious. There's nothing of value to be found there.
I really have never read the Bible, but I have gotten some good distillations of parts of it. So yeah, but anyway, that's the end of this show for the day. You don't want to hear Gavin and I, go off on theology. We don't fucking know shit for what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're gonna start offending everyone if we keep going.
Yeah, we're gonna bring back secular talk. No. For people
We're
who
gonna
don't know,
bring back
the reason it's called
YouTube.
Secular Talk is because Kyle originally started out as like a big voice in the new atheist movement. But
yeah, I know he was. Anyway, but yeah, peace out, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Hope our takes were decent enough for you guys to stomach, and everyone enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening.
Yep. Peace out.